December 1st, 1939. The possibility has been spoken of for the past couple months, while negotiations were happening between Finland and the Soviet Union. The possibility of war. Well, this week, that becomes reality. For this week, the Soviet Union invades Finland. I'm Indy Neidell. This is World War II. Last week, the British managed to capture an intact magnetic mine, Germany's new secret weapon, and have begun work on countermeasures. There was a naval battle in the far North Atlantic. The Japanese captured Nanning, the capital of Guangxi province, and in Poland, Jews are now forced to wear visible means of identification. And Finnish Marshal Carl Gustaf Mannerheim tried to warn the Finnish government that the Soviets were not going to back down. They didn't believe him. On Sunday, November 26, at the Finnish-Soviet border on the Karelian Isthmus, Finnish border guard Matti Jokela hears artillery being fired. After 7 shots, Jokela writes down his observations in his logbook. From 3 different observation points, he triangulates the shots to have originated 1¼ miles southeast from the point of explosion, some 800 meters within Soviet territory. These will be known as the Mainila shots. Moscow. Finnish diplomats are summoned to the Kremlin and told that their countrymen had fired on the Soviets at the border, killing 4 and wounding 9. The Finns offer to conduct an investigation, which is traditional procedure, but no. For the Soviets, this is a casus belli. Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov tells the Finns the 27th that the USSR no longer feels itself bound by their Treaty of Non-Aggression. I should point out that Mannerheim had ordered all the Finnish border guns pulled back out of range to prevent just such an incident. So it seems impossible it could have actually been the Finns who fired the shots. Helsinki did point this out in a response to Molotov, but there is no reply from him. On the 29th, the Soviet Union breaks off diplomatic relations with Finland. On the morning of November 30th, 1939, the Soviet Red Army launches a massive assault on Finland. On the stroke of 8 a.m., the air was suddenly filled with the whistle of shells, the echo of their detonation, the deeper boom of the howitzers, and the muffled roar of the heavies. From Kronstadt, the Russian fortification near the sea, came the distant echo of the great fortress guns. 30 seconds later, the horizon became a sheet of flame. The entire Finnish frontier was ablaze. Snow-laden trees flew through the air. Boulders, dirt, slush, and bits of farmhouses were silhouetted against the deep blue-red sky of dawn. Winding country roads disappeared in chunks as if the earth had cracked and swallowed them up. 26 Soviet divisions attacked, over 450,000 men against some 130,000 Finns, and many of these reserves or even teenagers. 1,000 Soviet planes against 150 Finnish. To the world watching, this seems like an offensive that will quickly find victory. And to Red Army High Command, that seems such a foregone conclusion that many troops still have summer uniforms despite the onset of winter. As for the Finns, they defiantly joke, "They are so many and our country so small. Where shall we find room to bury them all?" By 9:15, the 1st Red Army battalions crossed the border into Finnish Karelia. The front there is 90 miles long and 10 miles deep. Kirill Meretskov is in charge of the overall Soviet operation. Klim Voroshilov, Commissar of Defense, wants it finished by Joseph Stalin's 60th birthday, December 21st. Attacks begin along basically the whole 800-mile border on every road. There are 5 invasion routes, from Karelia in the south to Petsamo in the north, with the 9th Army trying to cut Finland in half at the middle. Air raids begin on Helsinki, the capital, where 61 civilians die that first day. The photographs of those air raids will be endlessly reproduced throughout Finland in the weeks to come, used as an inspiration to resist. Jeffrey Cox wrote, "On every front I was to visit later, man after man spoke angrily of this afternoon of November 30th. I saw newspapers and photographs of the burning streets of Helsinki in peasants' houses and workers' flats all over the country. Not a little of the steel strength of Finnish morale in this war was due to the raid on Helsinki." The Finnish defenses in Karelia southwest of Lake Ladoga are known as the Mannerheim Line and are made up of trenches, bunkers, and concrete strongpoints. Thing is, there are small lakes dotting the region and dense forests that pretty much funnel any advance towards minefields. Very carefully and thoroughly laid minefields. Soviets get a nasty shock straight off the bat. They're picked off by snipers at the border, and their orders are to push forward as quickly as possible. So even though they lack mine detectors, many are marched straight into the snow-covered minefields. And making it across simply means facing an unseen enemy. The Finns being masters of winter camouflage, but ones with machine guns. North of Lake Ladoga, there is no Mannerheim line, but white-clad Finnish home guards on skis, at home in even minus 40-degree temperatures, could navigate with ease, and guerrilla fighting begins at once. Skiers appear out of nowhere, machine gun the masked Russians, and then disappear. Both navies are in action, the Russians taking some undefended islands off the South Finnish coast. The 5 Finnish submarines go on recon and harassment patrol duty from the Gulf of Finland to the Gulf of Riga. In Helsinki, the Finnish government abandons the parliament building for the suburbs. That night, they vote confidence in the Aimo Kajander government, but the prime minister and his cabinet resign, hoping a new government will have more success negotiating with the Soviets. Risto Ryti, governor of the Bank of Finland, heads the new government and immediately announces he would seek peace. But we will not consent to bargain away our independence. But make no mistake, this is a day of disaster for Finland, the blackest day in its history as an independent nation. While all this is going on, an unknown radio station announces that there is a new government, but one set up by the Finnish Communist Party under Comrade Otto Kuusinen and headquartered at Terjoki, the first town liberated by the Red Army. In actuality, Terjoki, a resort town on the coast, had been abandoned without a fight. So the Soviet Union immediately establishes diplomatic relations with these guys, and guess what? In just one day, Molotov manages to negotiate the Lease of Hanko, the cessation of a chunk of Karelia, and the Ribaki Peninsula in the far north. Everything they'd asked for that the Finns had denied them. This government is, to the Finns and the world, a joke. But it not only unites the Finns further, it really lays bare that they now have no choice but to fight if they want to continue as an independent democratic nation. Kuusinen had been one of the Red leaders during the Finnish Civil War and had fled to Russia when the Whites won. And according to Eloise Engel and Lauri Pananen in the Winter War, conjecture was that he never left Russia until the Kremlin set him up in business in Terjoki. And since the town had been evacuated and there were no locals with whom to make a cabinet, it is formed entirely of Soviet citizens, Finns who had fled to Russia after the Civil War. Actually, I read in William Trotter's The Winter War that back on the 25th, there was a dinner meeting in the Kremlin, which Nikita Khrushchev wrote an account of. Molotov and Kuusinen were there, as was Stalin, and Stalin had apparently already chosen Kuusinen to run the coming puppet Finnish government, and plans for the invasion had already been completed. But this was not the only offensive that began this week. Halfway around the world, on December 1st, nationalist Chinese forces cut the Longhai Railway at several locations and attack local highways, trying to interrupt Japanese logistics. Chinese troops also attacked the cities of Kaifeng and Lanfeng. This is the beginning of nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek's series of offensives that will hit the Japanese across the whole country, attempting to retake control of lost territory. And a mainland European offensive is still being planned, but its planner is already thinking beyond it. On the 29th, Adolf Hitler issues Directive Number 9. This calls the defeat of the British essential for final victory. The best way to do that would be to cripple the British economy. So, once Germany had beaten the Anglo-French forces on the mainland and secured coastline opposite Britain, the main task of the Luftwaffe and Kriegsmarine would be to attack British industry, a naval blockade, mining the seas, and air raids on ports and industrial centers. The mine lading they're already doing loads of, as we've seen, but now they increase the recon flight missions over the island nation. In London, the War Cabinet asked the Joint Intelligence Committee what all these activities meant. On November 30th, the committee replied that it was impossible to do more than guess at their significance. And the week comes to an end. A week of active war in Finland and China, a puppet government installation in Finland, and Hitler's ultimate objective issued. Two big series of offensives beginning by two powers that, in terms of population, greatly outnumber their enemy. We'll see how that works out in the coming weeks. But with armies the size of these involved in the fight, there will be blood. A very great deal of blood. If you want to revisit the Russian Civil War and learn more about a whole bunch of places the Red Army also occupied or tried to occupy, we did a Between Two Wars episode about that, and you can click right here for it. Our Patreon supporter of the week is Valentis Athanasiou. Without him and without our other paying Time Ghost Army members, this series would not exist. Join the Time Ghost Army on Patreon or at timeghost.tv. The war effort needs you. See you next time.